What is going on YouTube? My name is NevinTheBarber, and in today's YouTube tutorial I'm going to be covering a burst fade with a textured fringe. So first things first, I'm going to get right into this haircut using my trimmers to do some trimmer over comb just to debulk my client's hair. He did wait about 3 months since his last haircut, so he did have a lot of excess growth along his parietal ridge. So I went ahead and started by debulking, followed by setting my first initial guideline with my trimmers, creating a circular shape right over my client's ear. And since this is a burst fade, I want to make sure that this fade goes out in every direction around his ear, like I mentioned. So now that I have all the bulk cut down to a 00 with my trimmers, I'm going to go ahead and set in my next guideline using no guard, lever all the way open on my metal Gamma Instinct clippers. And I'm going to take this guideline going up a little bit more than 1/2 inch. And I'm not going to erase this guideline quite yet. I'm actually going to follow it up using the 1.5 guard all the way closed. Again, going up about another 1/2 inch. So essentially what I'm doing here is I'm putting my guidelines in going up, and then I'm going to come back down and erase each guideline. So now that I have that guideline set, I'm going to go ahead and do some clipper over comb using that same exact guard on my clippers to blend up into the bulk and the parietal ridge area. And this is basically just saving me from using the number 4 guard, the 3 guard, and the 2 guard. And if you guys haven't tried out this fading system yet, feel free to try it out and let me know what you guys think. And now with the 1/2 guard all the way open, I'm going to begin blending that 0.5 up into the 1.5. And before I erase that last guideline, I'm going to go ahead and clean up my client's C-cups. I always like to line up the C-cups with my trimmers before erasing that last guideline, just because it gives the edge up that much more pop and more contrast into the fade. And I do have these trimmers right here 0 gapped. If you guys do want to save some money on these clippers or the blades that I'm using, feel free to use my discount code NEVIN10 at the checkout, and I will have the links in the description for you guys. And finally, with no guard, lever all the way closed, I'm going to begin flicking out that last guideline, and I'm just going to gradually start opening the lever as needed while opening up my cutting stroke as well. And you guys can see how this fade is starting to come together little by little. Like I mentioned earlier, this is a bulletproof fading system right here. As long as you guys put your guidelines in the right spot, you should get a nice, clean, consistent blend. And finally, with the lever all the way open, just flicking out any last dark areas that I see with the corner of that blade. And for the top of my client's hair, he didn't want to take much off. He only wanted 1/2 inch off the front of his hairline, which is basically the fringe. So I went ahead and took off 1/2 inch for him. I personally would have recommended going a little bit shorter, but of course it's always what the client asks for. And here, just doing some shear over comb up into the bulk, just to give that soft blurry effect right above the fade. And right here, I'm just doing a shear cutting technique called slicing, and this is basically just debulking my client's hair, giving him a little bit more texture and volume. That way it's not all flat. And these are my NevinTheBarber shears right here. If you guys do want to purchase them, feel free to shoot me a message on Instagram and I will get you guys squared away. And after I did that all along the parietal ridge bone and the occipital bone, I went ahead and came back and applied some volumizing mist powder. And this really just gives my client more texture and volume. You guys can see how the volume powder kind of made everything come together. And now I'm going to go ahead and start on the right side of my client's head. And on this side, I'm going to do a little bit of a different fading technique just to show you guys that this can be done multiple ways. There really is no right or wrong way when it comes to cutting hair. You guys just have to find a system that works for you. My system may not even work for you guys, but as I mentioned, this is just personally what works best for me. So as always, I'll begin starting the fade by creating that first initial guideline with my trimmers. And once I have that guideline set, instead of using no guard lever all the way open, I'm going to begin debulking with the 1.5 guard all the way closed. And I'm going up about an inch this time rather than half of an inch, only because, like I said, I do have the 1.5 guard on right now. And now I'm going to do some clipper over comb with that same 1.5 guard all the way closed. And I really like using this fading system right here because, like I mentioned, it'll save you guys from using those bigger guards. So now I have a clean foundation to fade into. I have my trimmer guideline followed by the 1.5 closed and then some clipper over comb. And now that I have that step complete, I'm going to go ahead and come back with no guard lever all the way open, going up about half of an inch right above my bald line. And you guys want to try to make sure that this guideline is clean and consistent as possible with the other side of your client's head. Always remember that clean guidelines will equal a clean, consistent fade. So just keep that in mind whenever you guys are cutting hair. And now with the half guard all the way open, I'll begin blending the 0.5 into the 1.5, and I'm just gonna gradually close my lever as needed to flick out that middle guideline. And now that I have that step complete, I'll go ahead and trim off half of an inch from my client's fringe. He did want his bangs to still be pretty long. And you guys also have to keep in mind, whenever cutting curly hair, it is gonna coil up a little bit after you guys cut it. So as I mentioned before, I would have preferred that he did take his fringe a tad bit shorter, but of course I had to give him what he asked for. So now that I'm done trimming his fringe, I'll go ahead and line up his C-cups before erasing that last guideline, just as I did on the other side. And I really like these trimmers right here. They honestly hit like lasers, very sharp, very efficient. And as I mentioned before, if you guys want to save some money on them, feel free to use my discount code NEVIN10 at the checkout on the Gamma website. And finally, with no guard lever all the way closed, I'm going to come in and begin flicking out that last guideline, blending the 00 into the 0.5. And I'm just going to gradually open my lever as needed while only using the corner of my blade to flick out any of those last dark areas that I see. And if you guys have learned anything in this tutorial so far, please be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I do appreciate any feedback that I get from you guys, so thank you for all of my viewers who tune into my content. And if there is any other tutorials that you guys want to see, feel free to drop them in the comments and I will get them out for you guys. And I went ahead and put on the half guard here just to detail out any last dark areas that I saw. And I always like to go back and double check my work, ensuring that I could give my client the cleanest haircut possible. Not only will your client appreciate it, but this will increase your chances of retainment and getting that client back in your chair. And for the back, my client did want a V shape on the nape area. So I went ahead and started off by doing some trimmer over comb just to cut off any excess bulk that was hanging over that didn't need to be there. And it's very important that you guys cut off any excess bulk when doing this. Otherwise, it's not going to look as sharp when you guys are trying to line up and get that sharp V in the back. And you guys can still see how there is a little bit of some overhanging hairs on the bottom of that V. So I went ahead and came back doing a little bit more of some trimmer over comb just to knock off that bulk that didn't need to be there. And just like that, you guys can see how this haircut all came together. But that is about it for today's haircut tutorial. I'm just gonna go back and put in a few more details with my trimmers. As I mentioned before, it's always important to go back and double check your work. But that is about it for today's haircut tutorial. Once again, I would appreciate it if you guys could like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. But that is about it. It's been your boy Nevin the Barber, and I'm out. I'll see you guys in the next one.